Last night, House and Senate appropriators released the text of a continuing resolution to fund the federal government through December the 20th. Now, this comes after the House failed to pass a 6-month continuing resolution that included the SAVE Act for election integrity last week, and with the government set to shut down shortly after midnight on September the 30th. While a continuing resolution is not the outcome conservatives on Capitol Hill would prefer, it does prevent a government shutdown as the November elections approach. So how can Republicans in Congress lay the groundwork to prevent an omnibus bill in December? Joining me now to discuss this, Congressman Tim Walberg. He serves on the House Committee on Education and the Workforce and the Energy and Commerce Committee. He represents the 5th Congressional District of Michigan. Congressman Walberg, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Tony, it's good to be back with you. Thanks for having me.
Before we get into what December may look like, let's talk about this CR. It's pretty much a clean CR, except there was additional funding added for the Secret Service and for disaster relief.
Yeah, it's pretty much a bare bones CR. Continuing resolution is supposed to be that. It's not to be to enhance some spending, but rather say, hey, we can't come to appropriate agreement. We can't pass a full appropriations package. The House has done that for the most part, but the Senate has moved no bills. So the writing is on the wall that if we're going to get something done before the government goes out of service, and they will certainly make sure that general taxpayers feel the worst of that. That's how they stop a shutdown and get back. We ought to put through a continuing resolution, keep it funded until appropriate time, specifically after this election. And we get into at least the lame duck session to have a little more opportunity to do what we need to do. I preferred going into March. We voted on that last week. We didn't get it across, but that would have given the new president the opportunity to put his 2 cents in, and I say his 2 cents because I think it'll be Donald Trump, and the opportunity to move our country forward along a path that worked 4 years ago. And for the past 4 years, it hasn't been working. So that didn't happen. So I'm certainly supporting this CR coming up short term, take us into December.
Congressman Walberg, I know there's been a lot of concern about the capacity of the Secret Service and the failures that we've seen recently. But is it a funding issue? I mean, this is where we normally turn. We turn to more money. But is it the issue here? More money? Is it lack of resources, or is it part of this whole woke DEI mentality that federal agencies have taken under the Biden administration?
I think it could be both. I say both because possibly those that were Secret Service agents who were committed to their job, and he or she was there to protect the president or the vice president or any specific VIP that they were supposed to protect, has been frustrated, I'm sure, with the wokeism that's gone on in the military and now in the Secret Service, in the FBI, and other storied agencies that have done their work very successfully, thank you, for many years in a very difficult line of work. But because of the wokeism that's come in, DEI requirements, et cetera, I think you've seen some good people say that's enough. I'm not going to stay with it. It's not my passion anymore when I can't do what I need to do with the people that are prepared to do the same thing and on a merit system have achieved the level of excellence that I can count on them as being comrades in arms when we're there to protect, for instance, this presidential candidate, former President Trump. And so we're losing people. So it may take some financial updating in order to encourage some others that would do the job they're expected to do because of merit, because of capabilities. But Tony, I think I'd agree with the tenor of your statement that a lot of it's come from because we've walked away from the main thing being the main thing, and we pushed in a panacea of desires coming from those that really aren't that concerned about protecting, especially a conservative president, but getting the wokeism and the diversity, equity, inclusion in all levels of society, whether it be education, whether it be, sadly, the military or the Secret Service.
Yeah, I would unfortunately, I don't think it's true, but I would hope that all Americans would want to see our presidential candidates and presidents protected, because it's really, quite frankly, it's an indicator of a country that has gone off the rails when we have leaders being assassinated. It's lawlessness. But my point, and I think it's you understand what I'm saying, is I don't want the Republicans to take the same path as Democrats, because that's what's led to this $35 trillion in debt, is we just think more money will solve the problem when the problem is much deeper.
You're absolutely right, Tony. I agree with you. And that's what I hope we get to. I'm very honest with my constituents. If you're looking at $35 trillion debt and you want that spent down, you're looking at the wrong point right now. Look at the deficit spending. Stop the deficit spending, grow the economy, and then we can start seeing the debt gradually begin to come down. But we've overspent for too long, and then we let inflation cause a greater problem as well. So yeah, we have to bite the bullet, and we have to say, with the 20% of our federal budget that is discretionary, we certainly have to stop there, but we also have to look at that non-discretionary area and start to do reforms so we have an ability, for the first time in my tenure in Congress, to vote on the non-discretionary portion, which has 80% or better of our entire budget and expenditures. And right now, those are off limit. We can't touch those. And if we aren't able to touch those with meaning reform, still keeping promises for Social Security recipients and Medicare recipients, we're never going to get to the bottom of the issue of overspending, deficit reduction, and ultimately debt reduction.
It takes tremendous discipline and courage and fortitude to take that on. And it begins with one step, and I'm going to talk about the first step, Congressman Walberg, and that is after the election, when Congress comes back in what will be one of the infamous lame duck sessions of Congress. This is when this temporary CR, assuming it's going to pass this week, will then expire on December the 20th. Now, you've been around a long time. You know the play. We're going to see the Democrats in the Senate, led by Chuck Schumer, either cobble together an omnibus, all the appropriation bills together, and jam the Senate, or jam the House with bad policy, more spending, or it's going to be a CR loaded with Christmas goodies for the left. How's the House going to respond to that as that first step to fiscal responsibility that you just talked about?
Well, I can't speak for the entire House, but I can speak for myself. I'm not there for an omnibus. Continuing resolution, at that point in time, we say, election's over with. There ought to be courage enough to do the right thing, and we ought to be able to stand and fight, even going through the Christmas recess, whatever it takes to do the right thing. And frankly, Tony, the House has sent over budget bills, appropriations bills of the 12.
Right.
And the Appropriations Committee has followed the designs of leadership saying we have to reduce spending, and we have to look at unappropriated divisions, departments, agencies, and programs and decide whether we're going to appropriate them or let them go away. And that's what we have to do, especially when there's no threat of losing election at that point in time. Do the right thing and stand firm for it.
And I thank you for pointing that out, because the Republicans in the House have passed about 72% of federal funding, and it has gone over to the Senate to collect cobwebs. They're doing nothing with it. And so the irresponsibility here is very evident where it lies, and that is with the Senate, because in times past, in all honesty, the Republicans have caved and given in to, not all, to be fair, not all, but enough have surrendered to allow that play to work almost every time. But I'm hopeful, as you are, that that point of fiscal responsibility has come, and we'll see that stand taken in December.
We'll live that way, believe that way, and vote that way, and see if a miracle can take place after Christmas.
Well, I know with the courage of men and women like you that have conviction, you can convince some of the others to stand as well. Tim Walberg, always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for the work you do.